Good morning, students. Welcome to the Literature in English class. Today, I am going to discuss Fritz, or rather explain Fritz to you, written by Satyajit Ray. I have already explained a portion of it to you in my previous presentation. Now, I will resume my explanation from where I left. Shankar noticed Jayanto had turned rather quiet after they had arrived in Bundi. Perhaps some of his memories had returned. It was easy enough to feel a little depressed or hopeless or low when we visit a place which one might have seen as a child. As we very well knew that Jayanto visited Bundi when he was 6 years old. According to Shankar, Jayanto was a very emotional person. Everyone around them was aware of the fact. Jayanto placed his cup down on the table and talked to Shankar and said that it was really very strange. When he visited Bundi for the first time, he used to sit cross-legged on these chairs, the cane chairs or the old furniture which we know about earlier. When as a child he used to sit on those chairs, he felt as if he was sitting on a king's chair or a throne. Now, at present, when he returned after 31 years, those same chairs seemed both small in size and very ordinary. The drawing room also seemed big to him as a child. He told Shankar if he hadn't returned, those memories would have remained in his mind forever. Shankar said that it was human nature and quite natural for that to happen. As a child, one is small in size, so everything else seemed large to him. When one grows with age, the size of all other things remain the same. Shankar and Jayanto went for a stroll, or you can say a leisurely walk in the garden, after having tea. Jayanto suddenly spoke the odor and stopped walking. Shankar gave him a staring look. Jayanto said that the deodar tree should be somewhere there, and he began walking towards the far end of the compound. Shankar was amazed and thought as to why he suddenly thought of a deodar tree. A few seconds later, Shankar heard his voice exclaiming with great happiness, "Yes, it's here, exactly where it was before." It meant that he had found the deodar tree and said it was exactly at the same place where it was before. Shankar said the tree cannot roam about, so of course it would be where it was before. Jayanto shook his head impatiently and said that he did not mean that the tree must have moved. He said he remembered the place where it was. Shankar asked Jayanto as to why he suddenly thought of the tree. Jayanto stared at the trunk of the tree and frowned. Then he shook his head slowly and said he doesn't remember why he recalled or remembered the deodar tree. Jayanto said that something had brought him near to the deodar tree. He had done something near to the deodar tree. A European. European? He recalled a strange business. Shankar told Jayanto that they had a good cook in the circuit house. Later in the evening, while they were sitting at the oval dining table having dinner, Jayanto said that the name of the cook was Dilawar. He had a scar or a peculiar mark on his left cheek, and his eyes were always red. He was an excellent cook. Jayanto kept remembering. Soon after dinner, when they went back to the drawing room, he remembered where his mother used to sit and knit sweaters, and where his father used to sit and smoke a cheroot. Now, a cheroot is a cigar which is open at both ends, and which all magazines laid on the table. And slowly he recalled and remembered about the doll. It was not the usual kind of a doll that little girls play with. Jayanto's uncle had bought for him from Switzerland a 12-inch long figure of an old man. He was dressed in traditional Swiss style doll. It seemed lifelike, although it was not mechanical. It was possible to bend and twist its limb, hands, and legs, of course. Now, the description of the doll was given by Jayanto. It wore a Swiss cap with a little yellow feather sticking out of it. Belt, buttons, pockets of shirt and the pant, collars and socks, everything was prominent. Even little buckles of the shoes were visible. His uncle had returned from Europe just shortly before Jayanto left for Bundi with his parents. That old man was bought by Jayanto's uncle from a village in Switzerland. The person who sold it emphasized on the fact that it should be called Fritz. And that's how the story got its name. Jayanto forgot all his toys, and a time came when he began to spend hours just talking to the doll Fritz. Our conversation had to be one-sided, yes, because the doll cannot reply back, of course. But Fritz had such a funny smile on his lips and such a look in his eyes that it seemed to me as though it could understand each and every word. Sometimes he wondered if he would actually converse with Jayanto, as if he could speak to him in German. Now it seemed like a childish fantasy, but at that time the whole thing was very real to him. Jayanto's parents did warn or that should stop spending hours talking to the doll, but he listened to no one. He had not yet been put in school. He did not go to school, so he had all the time in the world for Fritz. Jayanto, after talking about Fritz, kept silent. Shankar looked at his watch and realized it was 9:30 p.m. It was silent outside as everybody had slept. They were sitting in the drawing room of the circuit house. An oil lamp was burning in the room. Shankar inquired of Jayanto about the doll. Jayanto was still in thoughts. He was lost in his own world. He had started to think that he had not heard him at all. I had brought it to Bundi and it was destroyed here. Destroyed? How? That was the question. Jayanto took a deep breath and told how Fritz was destroyed. He recalled the incident, how Fritz was destroyed. Jayanto, with his parents, was sitting on the lawn having tea. He had kept the doll by his side on the grass. He was not really old enough to have tea, but Jayanto insisted on having it. And in the process, the cup bent, and some of the hot tea fell on his pants. He ran inside to change and came back and found that Fritz had disappeared. He looked around and found quite soon that a couple of stray dogs, that means 2 dogs, were having a nice tug of war with Fritz. A tug of war is a game which uses a rope and it is pulled on both the sides by the group of people. Although he didn't actually come back. His face was damaged beyond anybody could recognize it, and clothes were torn. Fritz was dead and did not exist for Jayanto anymore. And then Jayanto's story aroused interest in Shankar. Jayanto arranged for a funeral of Fritz. Jayanto buried him under a deodar tree. Jayanto wanted to make a coffin for it. Fritz was an European, so it had a coffin so that it could be buried. But Jayanto was unable to find a little box. So in the end, Jayanto buried Fritz under a deodar tree. At last, the mystery of the other tree was solved. He knew the reason why he remembered. They went to the bed at 10 p.m. They had a large room and their beds were neatly laid down. Shankar was tired after the day's activities, and as the bed was very comfortable, he fell asleep within 10 minutes. A weak sound woke him up a little later. He turned onto his side and found Jayanto fully awake and sat up on his bed. The table lamp by his bed was switched on, and in its light it was easy to see the look of curiosity on his face. Shankar asked Jayanto, what was it? Was he not feeling well? Instead of answering, Jayanto asked him one question. Does he think that the circuit house had got small animals? He meant animals like cat or mice. He shouldn't be surprised if it does. Why? Jayanto complained as if something walked over his chest. That what woke him. Shankar was of the opinion the rats and mice usually come in through the drains, but he did not know that they might climb on the bed. This was the second time that Jayanto had woken up. The first time he had heard a shuffling noise near the window. Shankar said that if the noise was near the window, so it might be a cat. Jayanto said yes, but he still had a doubt, so he said but. Jayanto still sounded doubtful. Shankar asked him if he didn't see anything which he switched on when he switched on the light. Jayanto denied and said that he didn't switch the light on immediately after he opened his eyes. Jayanto told Shankar that he was rather scared, but as soon as he switched on the light, he could see nothing. That meant that whatever came into the room must be still there in the room. Jayanto said that both the doors were bolted from inside so nobody could enter. He rose quickly and searched under the bed, behind their suitcase, and everywhere else in the room. Shankar could not find anything. The door to the bathroom was closed. Shankar opened it and was about to start another search when Jayanto called out his name softly. Shankar. With this, I end my explanation right now and will continue in my next presentation. An assignment is attached to the video. Kindly do it in your fair literature notebooks. The answer key of the previous assignments is attached. Kindly go through it and make necessary changes. Thank you.